Merry Christmas and welcome to the City of Frost and Fire. This show is normally about the extraordinary people who live in this city, and we have somebody with us who does have a place to stay here, but lives kind of as an international nomad. It is the immortal being himself, Old Saint Nick. Hello, Santa Claus.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I think I'll enjoy this. I don't often get a chance to do this.
Well, I really wanted to have a sit down. I knew you were in town this week, and I wanted to hear more about, it's not every day you get to meet somebody who's actually in tune and in touch with magic. You've been doing this for, 1,500, 1,700 years?
A little over 1,700, but who's counting?
And when you were a little boy, do you even remember? How does your memory go back these days? Can you remember back?
My parents were very loving. They were merchants. They traveled a lot selling their wares. So I consequently was left alone. And in those days, the place to stay was the local monastery.
Really? So yeah, I really want to paint the picture, because this is like 300 AD?
Yeah, about that.
So there's very few electronics. No iPads.
No.
Right? So you're
cell phones.
You're left alone. The monastery is like the place to be?
Yes.
where that's where everybody, or just because your parents are gone, or is that where everyone hangs out?
Well, most of the community hung out there because the monastery was the center of commerce for most small towns in those days.
Really?
Villages, yeah. There was usually a pretty good sturdy structure. And it sometimes had a wall around it, much like castles. And inside you would find a community garden. Everybody would go there to raise their food. And the monks were very good at maintaining and make sure everybody did what they were supposed to. And they also provided an education for the children.
Now, this is before the concept of nation states, I believe.
Right.
So I think, but in modern terms, what country would this have been in?
There would be Asia Minor or Southeast Turkey.
Turkey?
Yes.
Wow. So, now, I am an American, so I have a very poor grasp on geography. But Turkey, that's almost into the Middle East and Russia, right? Like that's almost up and around there.
That's why, it's Asia Minor. It is a very southwestern part of Asia.
Yeah. That I did not have. When I think of jolly old Saint Nick, I certainly don't think of
well, that was
Turks.
A necessary move to north so that we could have the solitude we needed in order to do what we do.
I guess so. So Istanbul was still Constantinople back at that time.
That's right.
As everybody knows, Istanbul was
Constantinople.
Once Constantinople. Okay.
That was at one point the center of religion.
I did not realize of Christendom.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where
Christianity,
because the Roman Empire and all that has got to be tied.
The Roman Empire was developing shortly after that.
This is pre-Roman Empire.
Yes.
Wow, Holy Roman Empire.
Well, yeah.
Wow, yeah, okay. I did not know any of this about your background. And then where does the magic come in? Was it sitting with the monks as a boy, or when did the first inklings, because you certainly have something, dare we say in modern parlance, supernatural, right? Like when did the first, or maybe we want to say miraculous? Is it a holy power, or what? Tell me about it.
In the beginning, there was nothing miraculous or superpowered about it. My first, because I'm giving, the monks taught me that it is better to give than receive. And when my parents passed away during the plague, they left me with a substantial amount of income.
The plague.
I was very good. I stayed with the monks. They raised me. My parents died when I was only 11.
Oh, my goodness.
So they raised me, and they taught me, and taught me how to read and write and that.
Which was rare at the time.
Yes, very rare.
Most people did not know how to write.
Well, and that's why they congregated around monasteries, so they could learn.
Okay.
And in the village where I was living by, everybody has problems.
Yeah.
Many in those days barely had enough to eat, shoes on their feet or sandals. And in particular, there was a young man who had been widowed. He'd lost his fortune to the sea with a ship he had for shipping, and he was broke. But he had 3 daughters that were of marrying age. And in those days, you had to have money,
A dowry.
to give the potential groom in order for them to start their life together as husband and wife.
Wow.
Now, these 3 daughters had no hope of getting married. And
Because there was no dowry.
exactly.
Wow.
And I found out about this, and I talked to the monks. There's one in particular, Anthony, who will forever be in my intellect, and that's that he didn't tell me what to do. He just steered me in the right direction. When I asked him how I could help these people, he said, "You'll figure it out. You have enough money. You could go buy. You could do whatever you want."
This is
But that would be insulting.
Anthony is this figure.
The monk, yeah.
I've never heard of Monk Tony. And he's
Well,
a
we
big
didn't call him Tony, but
okay.
in those days, Tony would have been disrespectful.
I see. Excuse me.
But Anthony was very good at giving me advice without telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion that the best thing I could do was to take one of my socks and cleaned it up, and I put some gold coins in there.
Oh my.
And then in the middle of the night, I just tossed these coins into the window, because we were all open windows in those days, into their rooms. And
Into whose room?
into these 3 girls.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't dare go inside.
Yeah.
But that began my giving career.
Okay. And so
And-
then were they able to get married?
They were.
To good gentlemen, I hope.
Oh, yes.
You followed up with that as well.
Very much so, yeah.
Okay, so the very, very, very beginnings of
Very
it
beginning.
was just kindness and generosity
Yep.
and giving.
And like a lot of people that end up in prominence, I was, I followed my faith with the monks, and I started preaching and taking care of other people like we do. And eventually I became a monk and a priest, and the gift giving continued
Yeah.
in small ways here and there. I would travel to other small villages as a priest, and I would find out people in need, and I would give them not outland. I would surprise them in the night with gifts of sandals, clothing, food, sometimes coins,
And this was all throughout the year or only on Christmas?
all throughout the year.
All throughout the year.
Eventually, things like that grow a story of their own. And in each telling, they come more and more grand. Now, I can't attribute anything to supernatural powers or magic, as people call it. I was just following my heart.
Yeah.
Eventually, a position opened up where I became a bishop. And I assumed the bishop role with the red cloak and the red pinnacle hat. And that's where red comes from for Santa.
Okay, I want to dwell on that for just a little bit. So,
Okay.
because I think people hear that and they understand in chess, it's a very powerful piece. But if you're not Catholic or if you're just not very well educated, I don't think most people understand quite what a bishop is. Can you tell us a little bit what that job was like?
Well, in terms of business, there are the frontline workers, the priests,
Yes.
the monks, the rabbis.
For the
and
church,
then-
for the Catholic Church.
Yeah, and as they get older and gain more in prominence, they ascend to certain positions. One of them is bishop in the Catholic faith. Another one is pope. And there are also cardinals. I became a bishop in Mysia, which was where I was living, and we had a really nice church for the time. People often traveled for miles to come see us, and that is where it's reported that I passed away. Now, that would be on what is now known as December 6th, St. Nicholas Day. I was canonized by the Pope, I forget The years tend to run for me. Excuse me. But I was
1,700 years has been a while.
as a saint for all my gift giving.
Yeah.
And I've been attributed to everything. People have claimed by visiting my burial site that the people who can't see can now see.
Oh.
Things like that. That.
But you didn't do it.
No.
Wasn't you.
Bless them. I don't have those kind of powers. I have been able over the years. One thing I discovered in my travels, when I'm giving to different groups and people, time seems to slow down. I managed to, even walking large distances, and it doesn't take as much time.
Huh.
And I attribute that to other powers who have found that in my way of giving and what I do, that it's necessary to meet as many people as possible as fast as I can. We all have limited life, and I'm not saying that I'm going to live forever, but Santa Claus will go on forever. As long as there's hope in the world, there will be a Santa Claus. And every country has their own gift giver. In the United States here, it's Santa Claus. In Great Britain, it's Father Christmas.
No.
I
did not know this.
In France, it's Père Noël.
Oh.
Now, in Italy, most people didn't realize their gift giver is recognized as a woman. She was originally...
Fabuloso.
Yeah, she was originally called a witch. Her job was to sweep the streets. And the mythology is that when the three wise men came looking for the star and the baby Jesus, they asked her for directions because they were lost. She stated that she didn't know. But when she found out who they were days later, as a self-penance, she decided that she was going to give gifts to children on the birth of Jesus.
So that very famous, wonderful classic with Tim Allen.
Yes.
The Santa Claus, I believe it's called.
Yep, the Santa Claus.
What you're telling me, so the next part of the famous, is how did you get here? And if I wanted to be you, how would I go about being you? It sounds to me like the Tim Allen classic has a little bit more truth to it than one might suspect at first blush.
Well, no matter what story you hear or see or read, movies, books, TV, every story, no matter what it is, has a basis in truth. That doesn't mean the entire story is true. So, like any movie, I would take the Santa Claus with a grain of salt. Parts of it are going to be true, parts of it are fantasy.
But to this day, you are Santa Claus, you are jolly old Saint Nick, the bishop himself, and you are here in Fargo today.
Yes, I'm here in Fargo. I just came off a very, very busy weekend, meeting children and families in different parts of the city and helping the Arthritis Foundation raise monies for their cause. I love doing it. I love getting out and meeting people when the opportunity comes. And I see some really fun things. I also learn a few things. For example, I didn't realize that you could go to a movie theater and act out the movie. I found that out at the Fargo Theater. They did a show.
Did you go to Rocky Horror?
No, they did Elf this weekend, and they did an interactive showing of it. Wonderful fun. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, they do that with Rocky Horror, too. So
I understand that, yeah. So it was really, really an interesting thing.
That's fantastic. Well, that is all the time for the truth that we have. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have our next segment. Oh, that was loud. We'll have our next segment, Fargo Fun. So don't go nowhere.